Hi everyone, it's Spilios from Stars Over Bucks, and today I wanted to take you through some basic photo processing that I do using PixInsight for my astrophotos. You can see I already have a photo open here. This is of the Tulip Nebula in Cygnus. I've stacked about 3.5 hours of data, calibrated with darks, lights, and flats using Deep Sky Stacker. Now I've opened the file in here. And what you can see is not a lot. The photo at this point appears pretty dark because the photo hasn't been stretched. So why don't we get right into it by stretching the photo first. So if we go to Process, go to All Processes, and then Screen Transfer Function. If we press this little nuclear symbol here, it'll give us an auto stretch so that we can see what do we actually have on screen. And here you go. Here's the Tulip Nebula. You can see that here, along with some other nebulosity. The next thing that we want to do is typically crop our photo, and that really depends on what you're looking to remove from your photo. It's hard to see here, but right around the border, there's still some artifacts there from the stacking process. So what I'll do is I'll go to Process, Geometry, Dynamic Crop, and then we want to press the little reset symbol here on the corner, and then I'll just slide the box over slightly. I'll resize the box and then slide it back to just remove that data around the edges. Okay, then you'll go back over here, press the check mark, and that'll just take a second, and there you go. The crop is done. So I can turn that off now. The next thing that we want to do is really clean up the background, and there's two processes that are available for this. So you go to Background Modelization, and there's an automatic background extractor or the dynamic background extraction. I use both. Typically, I'll start with the automatic one, and if that doesn't work well, I'll spend some more time in the dynamic one, but why don't we try the automatic one and see how that works. You can keep the default settings here. You just have to make sure when you go down to Target Image Correction that you choose Subtraction, and then just drag the triangle over to the box. And that'll just take a minute. There we go. And what it does is it gives you a couple of new images. One is of the background itself. You can stretch it and have a look at what data has been removed from your photo. But this is the one that you're really interested in. So we can go back here, press the nuclear symbol, stretch it, and there you go. There is the updated image. And if you just look at them side by side, you can see definitely improved contrast versus the older image. So I'll go down here and just delete the original image, and this is the image that we're going to work with now. The next thing that you want to do is color calibration. So for this, first you want to pick this box here, and then find a place on the photo where it's background, there's no nebulosity, and there's no stars either. That's a little bit more challenging on a photo like this where there's not a lot of background, so I'll zoom in a little bit and I can find right here a little area, and I'll draw a preview box there, and we're going to use that in a second. So if I go to Process and then Process, Color Calibration, and then Color Calibration. Okay, and for the most part, we're going to leave the default settings here. For the background reference, now you want to choose this preview box that you created as that background reference. And basically, this will do a comparison between your background and your highlights and ensure that it's color corrected appropriately. So that's all you need to do is press the preview there, select it, and then drag your triangle over. Just take a minute. And there we go. Okay, so we'll zoom back out here. All right, you can see pretty significant change here. I'll delete my preview, and then I'll just go back here, reset the stretch, and then go back there. So now we have a color corrected image here. Now, one other thing that's worth looking at with some filters, what you'll notice is you get a bit of a green hue that's on the photos, and so there's a tool here that's useful in terms of removing that. So I'll usually take a look and use that. You'll just go over here to all processes as SCNR. It's also under the noise reduction tab, and again, this is one that you'd use in default. Just drag the triangle here. So if there's any additional green there that shouldn't be there, this will remove it. I don't get it as much on this filter, but you can see a slight change has been made there. So those are really the steps, prior to now permanently stretching the image. So we'll go down here, press our box here to remove this auto stretch that we've been using, and the next thing that we're going to do is go over to intensity transformations and histogram transformation. And I'll reset this here. And what we want to do is click on the preview box. So this will allow you to see the changes that you're making in real time. And then I'll click this check mark as well, which will allow me to see the histogram as we're making changes. So all you want to do is go over here, click the middle box, and then start to drag that to your left. All right, and then you want to drag that as far as you can while having a reasonable image. Okay, right about there is probably good. Okay, yeah, I would probably stop there, and then we're going to clean up this background in using the curves transformation. So we will click off the preview, click down the preview box, and then we'll just take our little triangle here and again drag it to our image, and that will apply the settings to our image. Should just take a second. There we go. Again, background a little bit light, but we are going to fix that right now. So click down histogram transformation, and then you want to go back to intensity transformations to curves transformation. Same thing here, click on preview. That'll open up the preview box. Again, I'd like to be able to see the histogram as well. And so you really want to click on the line in a couple of different areas here. So when you click on the line down here and make adjustments, you're really making adjustments to the shadows, so mostly in the background. So typically what you'll do is you'll click right here, in front of the histogram, and then drag down a little bit. And you'll drag down until you're happy with kind of the darkness of your sky background. So right about there is reasonable. And then you want to click up here, which is more in your highlights range, and this is going to brighten the nebula and give you that contrast that you're looking for. So again, we'll click on here, I'm going to go the opposite direction. And you want to get that to a nice place without overdoing it. Say somewhere about there. Seems pretty reasonable. If you see, if you go too far, then your stars look really bloated. Say right about there is probably good. One other thing that is useful is you can also adjust your saturation. So if you go over here to this last part here, click on saturation, that'll give you a new line. You can adjust the saturation back and forth if you need more color in your photos. Typically with a nebula, I don't find that I do as much. I might give it a little bit more color. But it's fine with galaxies. This is really useful. So this is probably a pretty good area to stop. Now I think maybe we'll just turn up. I want to make sure it looks natural right about there. So again, I'll click down the preview box and then drag the triangle here, and it'll make the changes to the image. There we have it. Now, one last thing that I'll typically do with all my photos is some noise reduction. And so for that, we'll go over to Process. We'll go to, actually it's the first one here, ACDNR is what I use for that. Okay. We're going to use, the typical settings that I would use here on lightness is, I'll click the lightness mask. I'll take standard deviation up to 4 to do some higher level noise reduction. And chrominance, go to about 5. Okay, click on the lightness mask here as well. And then you want to come down to the lightness mask, click on preview, and click on your preview box. And you can see here you get kind of an inverted image. And really anything that's dark is going to be protected from your noise reduction. And so you want the nebula to be more protected. You want it to be applied to your background. You can slide this midtone slider here back and forth. So if you go here, you're going to have less noise reduction in your background. And then go here, you'll have more, but less protection of the nebula. So generally somewhere about here works well, usually in the middle there. Okay, so we can go ahead and close down this preview, unclick this preview box, and then all we'll do is drag the triangle over here. Now this generally takes 2 or 3 minutes, so I'm just going to pause and I'll be right back. Okay, so ACDNR is complete. You'll notice some subtle noise reduction. There wasn't too much noise on this photo to begin with. I used a fairly reasonable gain on my CMOS camera. But if you're using higher ISO or higher gain, this tool comes in really handy. So, this is really it. Certainly you can play around with the histograms more if you wanted to get it perfect, but you can just go up here into File now and save it as a TIFF file. And that's really it. Thanks for watching. I know there's certainly different ways to do this, so if you have other ways that would be useful, please put in the comments. There are some other processes that I use as well, and I may be creating some videos in the future to really kind of take you through when I use those tools. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you all soon.